Hello there. Welcome to Just the Discs. My name's Brian. Talk about Blu-rays here. And this is going to be one of my big episodes of the year where I go through some of my favorite releases. I'm going to start with 4Ks, then I'll do a separate video for Blu-rays. There might be an additional video / episode about further discoveries. That'll kind of be in the vein of some of this stuff, because some of those discs will be new from this year and some will be older. But let me just preface by saying, in terms of the best of the year, it's always a very tricky, dicey proposition for me because, I'm just one guy and my opinions are often based more around the quality of the movie itself than the quality of the release. This is going to be a combination of those things. But know that I'm almost always leading with the film first. This is a movie that I think is interesting, a movie that I like, or a movie I discovered. And that's part of the reason for choosing some of these. But a lot of these are just great releases, period. So, let's get into it. There's a lot to talk about. I'm not going to go too deep on any of them just because there's so many to go through. But I will start with some of my very favorites. But there's so much good stuff on 4K this year. So many great films getting their 4K debut, and so many of them in great sets. I'll start with, what is clearly one of the best, and that would be Martin. This would be no surprise to anybody that's been waiting like I have for this movie, George Romero's film from, I believe, 1977. I'm pretty sure it's one of his favorites that he ever made, starring John Amplas as a troubled young man who believes himself to be a vampire, and how he goes about sort of dealing with that lifestyle, if you will. And this is a Second Sight 4K. Second Sight, I've talked about them on the channel, on the show before, and they always do a spectacular job with their limited edition sets. This comes with an incredible book, a very thick book. It comes with lobby card type stuff, and the hard case. I love their hard cases. And then, of course, you get 3 discs. You get a Blu-ray, Region B locked, the 4K, and the soundtrack. The restoration is incredible. Approved by DP Michael Gornick, HDR, and they're bringing over commentaries like the one from George Romero, John Amplas, and Tom Savini, and then another Romero commentary, and 2 new commentary. It's just incredible. This is truly one of the releases of the year without question. This is one that's not just it's about the movie, but it's also this is an obvious, come on, people, this is one of the best things to come out this year, and it was a long time coming. It was unclear that this film was ever going to get a release because it kept getting pushed and all that, but well worth the wait. Martin on 4K from Second Sight, 100%. One of the best of the year. And while we're on Second Sight, hard not to talk about their It Follows limited edition. Just another beautiful set. Just like the Martin set comes with it. In fact, this is almost even nicer. This is a bound book. The other thing is bound too, but this is like a hardcover book that comes with this limited edition, and it is just beautiful and absolutely like a standalone kind of book that you would want to pick up even separate from that. But this is has UHD and Blu-ray, and a new 4K master produced by Second Sight and the original post-production facility, approved by director David Robert Mitchell, and with HDR, and looks amazing. Again, I don't want to go too deep and get hung up on too many of these, but this set is just absolutely wonderful. They have a new, I want to say High Tension coming next year, and then a Blu-ray set of Inside. I have High Tension on order. I'm thinking about Inside as well because these releases are so good. I get these usually from Diabolic DVD, which is where I recommend you pick up your imports as they get the pre-orders up pretty quickly after the announcements, and then you just sort of set it and forget it. You don't have to worry about it, and Jesse and his team will take care of you and deliver them in great condition. So anyway, the 2 second sites, It Follows and Martin to start. Some of the other big winners here for me this year were Arrow Video, Kino Lorber, Shout Factory, Scream Factory, Criterion is going to come up. But I'll start with probably my favorite Arrow 4K this year is Mario Bava's Blood and Black Lace. Just an incredible restoration, absolutely beautiful from the original camera negative, and it's just gorgeous with HDR. This is just a great proto-slasher, proto-giallo Bava film about a house where a bunch of models live, and they start getting knocked off by a faceless killer that's very much like the killer in... I think that there's definitely some influence on It's a Wonderful Knife. That killer seems to be faceless too, which kind of bummed me out because I always wanted to make a slasher with that faceless kind of killer. This is one of the best, and just some beautiful color and style and just fantastic, and tons of extras for days. I mean, this is a movie that Arrow's put out several times, so it's not a surprise that they have tons of good stuff, but this also comes with a slipcase and then a nice hard box with a book and the 4K, and it is just gorgeous. Like really, really one of my favorites of the year. Absolutely love that. So glad they put that out. That was a second one purchase when it was announced. Same thing for this, and I just got this, which is part of the reason I've waited to do this video. This episode is because I was waiting on the Warriors 4K from Arrow, and I just got it, and I haven't been able to go too deep into it, but I can already tell it's one of my favorite releases of the year. Another one, this is a 2-disc 4K set. We have the theatrical cut, which is, of course, what we all want, and then the alternate version in 4K as well, if you want that. I mean, one slight downside is there's a ton of extras on the 4K, so you're crowding your bitrate just a little bit. But that said, it looks great. Like, the Warriors has never looked better. The neon lights of the Wonder Wheel just look gorgeous. And so I put this in, and I was immediately like, wow, this is definitely one for the books. And it's too bad when the some sites put out their lists so early, and I get it. You want to get them out in time for people to do shopping and things like that, but then you miss out on these late year releases like the Warriors, which is 100% get this, people. This is well worth owning and looks fantastic. And yeah, new audio commentary by Walter Chaw, author of the Walter Hill film book, and a new interview with director Walter Hill, as well as Whole Lot of Magic, a new roundtable discussion in which filmmakers Josh Olson, Lexi Alexander, and Robert D. Krzyzkowski discuss their love for the Warriors and the work of Walter Hill. So that's just a few of the new features. I think those are the main new features, and then they're bringing over other features from previous releases in some cases here. But just an epic set. Really, really happy to have that from Arrow. Two more from Arrow here. Witness, got a 4K. Really been on a big Harrison Ford kick this year. I mean, partially because of Dial of Destiny coming out and his last turn as Indiana Jones, as well as the show Shrinking, which I think is one of the greatest roles he's ever had. And I think he's so good in that. That just sort of got me thinking about his other stuff. And I'll come back to another one of his movies on 4K in a minute. But this is a really nice release from Arrow, a limited edition with a book. And I think Witness had been on Blu-ray before. I think so. But this is really above and beyond. Dolby Vision HDR, just a great story of a cop. It's neat to see Harrison Ford play things that aren't Han Solo and Indiana Jones. So he's a cop. He's kind of rough around the edges, and he ends up getting involved with an Amish woman played by Kelly McGillis and her son played by Lucas Haas, who witnesses a murder in the bathroom at a train station. And so they're not used to modern life, and he has to sort of become involved in their lives to protect them. So the kid can testify, and it gets complicated, and there's some really intense scenes in it. Danny Glover's in this as well. But yeah, lots of new stuff here. New interview with the cinematographer, visual essay, commentary, really, really nice release, and a movie that I think people have kind of forgot about or slept on. One that I haven't had a chance to look at yet, but I would think would be on my list is the Carlito's Way 4K. I have that in the other room and just didn't have time to get to it before this. That one's already had a 4K release, which I think is part of the reason I was a little dragging my feet on putting it on this list, but I'm sure it's going to be great. And I know it's better than the studio version because it's Arrow. So you can count that as an honorary for sure. Weirdly, I'm a huge fan of the Tremors series, so I was pretty excited to get Tremors 2 Aftershocks on 4K, which is a neat one because it's a movie that was basically made for home video, and I don't know about how much of a theatrical release it actually got. Although I know Universal Theatrical got involved. There's a nice commentary on here from co-director S.S. Wilson and co-producer Nancy Roberts, which has a lot of great stories. I want to say S.S. Wilson was the writer on the original, or one of the writers on the original. But I like this one. This one does what I think is really cool about sequels, and it takes the Tremors and brings in new ideas. The Shriekers, which are the little two-legged versions of them, and Fred Ward returns. You don't get Kevin Bacon back, unfortunately, but Fred Ward does a nice job leading the cast. And then, of course, you get Michael Gross, who became like the cornerstone of the franchise for years to come. I like 2. I like 3. Actually, there's not a Tremors movie I don't like, but this is, maybe my second favorite. It's, for me, right up there with the first one. And they do a lot of interesting, fun things to kill the Tremors, including using remote-controlled trucks and things like that. Anyway, looks great. I wasn't sure about that because it was made for video, but it looks really good. And it's a new 4K restoration from the negative. Dolby Vision HDR. Color looks good. Grain looks good. So really nice. And again, the hard case from Arrow. I'm just addicted to these. They just do such a nice job with these, the books and everything. Okay. So back to Harrison Ford real quick. Actually, wait a minute. Sorry. One more from Arrow. I think this is my last Arrow. And that's Black Hat. Michael Mann. Of course, he's got Ferrari coming out. I'm going to be seeing that very soon. It's getting pretty good reviews, and I'm pretty excited. But he's a filmmaker I've loved for a long time. Just a very precision guy, almost Kubrickian, but different in his own way. And this is a really enjoyable story. It definitely has its fervent fans, and it has those that think it's just okay. But what I will say is that this 4K, which looks really good, has the theatrical cut in 4K. But what they waited on and what caused the delay is they got the director's cut. But that's only in Blu-ray. But I will say the Blu-ray looks really good, and I really enjoyed seeing the director's cut. He shifts some things around, and I think dramatically it works better than the theatrical cut. This also has the US and international versions in the 4K and disc there. So you can watch those versions, and then you have the director's cut and lots of nice extras. This is definitely one I've seen on some lists, and I get why it's getting picked up. Definitely worth getting if you're a Michael Mann fan. Then on to Harrison Ford one more time from Warner Brothers. I just got The Fugitive on 4K. Also looks really great, and this movie really, really holds up. And I forgot how much I like it. how much I like, again, the Harrison Ford performance, doing something a little different, doing Dr. Richard Kimball, a man accused of murdering his wife when in fact it was a one-armed man that he can't seem to convince people of, and the bus crash train sequence, still really, really good, especially for 93, when CG was still in its infancy, really. Really solid stuff, and a great performance, obviously, by Tommy Lee Jones in one of his career-defining roles. Just really love this movie, and I forgot just how much. But like, really great sets, and has some decent extras on it for 2 documentaries, and for a studio release, it's pretty solid, and it looks great. So that's Fugitive. Let's see here. I can get into some Shout Factory. We have Midnight Run, truly one of my favorite films, like, of all time. Just such the great buddy comedy, one of the templates for the buddy comedy, and it's just one that I continually respond to, both as just a great movie, but also as an emotional experience of 2 guys who hate each other becoming friends and getting to an emotional place towards the end of the film. And it's so well done, so well written, so funny. Totally underrated Danny Elfman score. It's just a really great, he does some things with horns and guitars in it that's unlike anything else he ever did, and it sounds so good. And this 4K looks great and carries over. The releases are the this is the 2022 4K scan, but it carries over the releases, the stuff from the previous Blu-ray, and so you get a lot of nice features here, including an interview with De Niro, Grodin, Pantoliano, who's in The Fugitive too, and he's really good. Anyway, love Midnight Run. Have to recommend getting that 4K. Another of my favorites, and back to Walter Hill again, we get Streets of Fire on 4K, another movie that is incredibly visually sumptuous, like The Warriors. I love that we got 2 of Walter Hill's most beautiful movies, ostentatiously beautiful, even if you want, on 4K this year, and this is just a lovely looking transfer. Original camera negative, Dolby Atmos, and bringing over their features from the Blu-ray. I know that this Blu-ray just came out, so it's not that far. Same thing with Midnight Run, but I couldn't not get Streets of Fire. Again, one of my very favorite films. I absolutely love it. So that's that one. Trying to decide if I should go into the Scream Factories. Let me just sidetrack for a minute here. Okay? We'll come back to Scream Factory. 3 of my favorite movies of all time got 4Ks this year. And so we're going to go 3 different studios here, but we're going to start with The Train, 4K from Kino Lorber. Again, one of my absolute top 10 very favorite movies. Just such a good film, and looks gorgeous in black and white. John Frankenheimer's film from 1964, I want to say. Burt Lancaster leading a group of sort of French revolutionary types, reluctantly so, against some Nazis who, especially one of the commanders who wants to steal a bunch of French artwork, and they go to great lengths to stop him from stealing these art pieces from all kinds of famous French artists on this train. And it is got great suspense, great action, great performances. I mean, it's like Sorcerer or something. It's on that level of suspense and quality filmmaking. So I could not have been more excited when I got this on 4K. This is just such a classic for me, and includes the commentary with Frankenheimer from the DVD and some other stuff. But absolutely love that. And then from Warner Brothers, we have Rio Bravo. Again, one of my top 5 favorite movies. The greatest hangout Western of all time, with John Wayne, Dean Martin, Ricky Nelson, Angie Dickinson, and a whole bunch more folks. Walter Brennan, a sheriff and his deputies are tasked with guarding a rich rancher's brother who's been accused of murder. I mean, it's not accused. He did it. He does it in the first scene. But trying to keep the rich rancher's brother's gang from getting him out of jail. And they will do anything. They'll kill these sheriffs. They don't care. These are hired killers. And it just is such a great character piece. Howard Hawks' best film for me, and a Tarantino favorite. He's certainly the person that put me onto this movie years and years ago, right around the time I saw it in a film class in college and loved it. But anyway, this looks great, and was so happy to get the 4K, which includes the Richard Schickel, John Carpenter commentary and some other extra features. So The Train and Rio Bravo, that would have been amazing. But then you couple that with After Hours. I mean, come on. This is my favorite Martin Scorsese film. I know that that's a weird thing to say, despite classics like Taxi Driver and Raging Bull in his canon. But there's something about the frenetic energy and the comedy of this, the story of a word processor and maybe the worst night of his life as he tries to go to Soho to meet a girl played by Rosanna Arquette, ostensibly to get with her, but so many things go wrong for him. And maybe you are with that. Maybe you think he deserves it. But regardless, it is an absolute blast. And this 4K looks spectacular. And it has new conversation with Scorsese and writer Fran Lebowitz, commentary, all kinds of great stuff, plus an essay in the book. And yeah, I absolutely, this and Martin are two of my top picks for 4Ks this year. Absolute must. I'm on that train. Night of the Hunter got a 4K from Kino, and it looks gorgeous as well in black and white. I love black and white 4Ks. The detail and the grain, just something special. One of the great Robert Mitchum performances. Dolby Vision HDR, new scan of the 35mm camera negative. Commentary by Tim Lucas. And then Ernest Dickerson does a little featurette. And Kathy Garver. And yeah, it's just a really, really nice 4K. This is obviously got a release from Criterion. I think there's one feature that's not, one or two that aren't on this 4K, but it's, I don't know. It's pretty cool. You know, I'm not going to get rid of my Blu-ray for sure, but I was pretty excited to get this 4K of Night of the Hunter. Let's see now. Well, I'm on the topic of favorites. Dazed and Confused got a 4K. Richard Linklater's film. Was just watching his interview with Scorsese on the Mean Streets 4K, which I will do in a separate video that would almost qualify for this because it's a really nice release. But he's talking about how Mean Streets was so influential, and I think of this as Linklater's Mean Streets, except it's about his, years in Austin growing up, or, in Texas anyway. And again, an incredibly great hangout movie, and looks wonderful on this new 4K and brings over all the great features, including the commentary, which is one of my favorites that he ever did. Making Dazed. I even got the oral history book of Dazed and Confused this year, so it's been a big Dazed year for me. Okay, where to go next? Let's try. Okay, Monster Squad. Just a childhood favorite that has a really nice looking 4K release, new scan, and some pretty killer extras. This is a 3-disc set that also includes the Wolfman Scott Nard's documentary, co-written and directed by Andre Gower, who is, of course, one of the stars of this film. You don't need me to talk about Monster Squad. You guys know what it is. I had a video about it recently, but the scan looks great, and it's just a really wonderful release from Kino. Highly recommended. Spielberg's Duel. I picked up I I don't know if it was exclusive or not, but I think it's the UK maybe. I don't know. I got it from groove.com, GRUV. This is the Steelbook 4K of Duel, Spielberg's breakout feature debut, I want to say. Don't think he made a feature. I get confused because there's some TV movies in here that I forget where they land, but Duel is early. And it is truly one of the best things he ever made. The way he shoots this movie is absolutely inspirational in terms of shot selection, just the way that he frames things. You can tell it's done by somebody who's so passionate and so excited about filmmaking. And it's just a great story. It's based on Richard Matheson, and he wrote the script. And it's about a guy played by Dennis Weaver, who Spielberg insisted on casting because of Touch of Evil, which I'll get to actually in a second. And because of his nervous nature in that movie. And this guy starts getting messed with by a big truck on the highway, and he really gets into a serious confrontation with this unseen driver. And how will it all turn out? It's great. I absolutely love it, and I love the way it opens with the car coming out of the garage and driving for miles and miles. You have the original TV movie version here in 133. That's just an HD, not 4K. Conversation with Spielberg and the small screen, Matheson, the writing of Duel. So some nice features, but I'm not a huge Steelbook guy, but I really love the art for Duel, and it's one of my favorites. So I snagged that. Let's just jump over to Touch of Evil. This is the 4K from Eureka. Again, it's in that sort of Arrow mold. They had done a nice Blu-ray of this. This comes with a big old book and a new artwork by Tony Stella. This, of course, got a 4K from Kino, and this doesn't have... Oh, wait, does it have the... I'm trying to remember if it has the Tim Lucas. I'm pretty sure Tim Lucas is on the... So you might be missing that. But this has a lot of stuff in terms of features and looks great. Maybe better than the Kino. I'm not exactly sure. But nice to get this from Eureka, who also do really wonderful limited edition sets. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, Maltese Falcon. One of the great Bogart films. One of the great debut films ever. It's pretty incredible that John Huston started out with this movie because it's fantastic and looks wonderful on this 4K. Absolutely some nice features here as well. Casablanca also came out this year, I think, and that looks good. I just couldn't include everything, you know. All right, some more Criterion's Last Picture Show I just talked about recently, so I'll go quick, but this is really great, and it includes Texasville in two versions, the sequel, the color version, and the black and white director's cut, which is something that has never really been seen before, and kind of sadly isn't going to get the same kind of attention because it's not... I mean, I hope it'll get toured around in theaters a little bit, you know? I don't know. But epic, wonderful, absolutely love it. Just fantastic. Blue 4K. One False Move, Carl Franklin's neo-noir with Bill Paxton, Billy Bob Thornton, who's a co-writer. This got a release through maybe Imprint as part of a Blu-ray set, but this blows that away. Really wonderful 4K restoration. An old commentary from Carl Franklin from, I think, the DVD, but like, that'll do, man. It's really good. There's a new conversation between Franklin and co-writer Billy Bob, and that's really neat. Just an excellent neo-noir. The Ranown Westerns, I bought these like on DVD and then again on Blu-ray from Indicator. And now this new 4K set from Criterion, which looks fantastic. It includes 5 of his films: The Tall T, Decision at Sundown, Buchanan Rides Alone, Ride Lonesome, and Comanche Station. Tall T and Ride Lonesome are my 2 personal favorites, but Comanche Station Decision at Sundown, and Buchanan Rides Alone are all enjoyable as well. These look really good and have some wonderful features. Was very excited to get these again. If you haven't seen these, they're somewhere between the westerns of the 40s and 50s and the spaghetti westerns of the 60s. They're like the missing piece between. They're darker and stripped down and so good, and I just love that set. Okay. Let's see. City of the Living Dead. Arrow just announced this as well, but this is pretty great. I don't know if I'm going to be getting the Arrow. This is the Cauldron Films 4K, one of their first 4K releases, and they did an excellent job with the restoration. I think it looks fantastic. And this also came with the soundtrack and a nice slipcase and a lot of features. I think some from previous releases and some new stuff as well. So you have a Blu-ray and a 4K here, but it looks really good. Great Fulci film, and highly recommended. Be checking on Cauldron Films all the time in terms of what they're working on, because it's a lot of good stuff. Let's see now. I guess I can go into the horror stuff. I'll try and make this quick. Scream Factory, again, scored a lot of points with me. The Blob remake, Chuck Russell's film from '88. Kevin Dillon, Shawnee Smith. One of the great remakes ever. Truly, wonderful effects that are still hard to believe that they're done physically. It's just hard to even understand and comprehend. But I love them, and they look so good. And a lot of characters you like get killed in this movie. It's really something. It's, New Beverly just recently did a double bill of this and The Thing remake, which is, two of the best remakes ever. And this 4K is wonderful, and they're putting their features over, and they've done a lot of great features for this already. My Bloody Valentine, one of my favorite slashers. In a year where we get Thanksgiving, a new slasher, it's nice to have these old classics like this. Canadian production about a town getting its comeuppance from what's his name, Harry, I forget now, I'm blanking of course on it, because there's even a song, Harry Warden, of course, the miner that's going around killing people after the town decides to have the Valentine's Day dance. It just looks really good. Includes the uncut version, a commentary, new 4K restoration, tons of extras. Again, Shout Factory really did right by me this year. Just a few more from them. We have Night of the Comet, an 80s cult classic about sort of an end of the world scenario. Catherine Mary Stewart, Kelly Maroney, Mary Warrenoff. Yeah, just a gem, one that I've loved for years, and I've loved when it came out on Blu-ray. I was so excited, and now we've got a 4K that looks excellent, and all the features from their previous Blu-ray, which was really, really neat. So Night of the Comet. Then we have Creepshow. I just picked this up. Another one from Romero. He scores twice with 4Ks in this group. And yeah, I love this anthology. The Crate is one of my favorite segments in any anthology film ever. Truly something special with Adrienne Barbeau and Hal Holbrook. Color looks great. Grain looks great. And we got tons and tons of features. They did a nice limited edition case, which I do miss a little bit from the Blu-ray. It was like a hard case, kind of like an Arrow type thing. But that said, this 4K looks really nice, and glad to have this classic on 4K now. And last from Scream for now is Dead Silence, a movie that I think has built up a cult following since it came out. I feel like it did okay at the time it was released. It's James Wan. It was like, his first digression, or one of his first digressions since the success of the Saw films. It's a crazy, dummy, ventriloquist dummy kind of horror movie, but it's really effectively done and still holds up well and has a great climax, and 4K looks really good, and some nice features as well. So another score from Scream Factory. Okay. Just a few more here. This is a UK release of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas on 4K. This is from Arrow. I should have talked about it when I was doing the Arrow stuff. But Terry Gilliam's adaptation of the Hunter Thompson book, Johnny Depp in a role that was one of his best for sure. Same thing with Benicio. On their way to Las Vegas to cover a road race and all the debauchery and insanity that ensues therein. Really good looking transfer and some nice features from Arrow. This one I had to import. I'm assuming Criterion will probably upgrade Fear and Loathing at some point, but they haven't yet, and this is pretty worthwhile. Some standalones. Dragon Slayer got a nice 4K from Paramount. This looks really, really good and has some really nice features in that it has a commentary from Matthew Robbins and Guillermo del Toro, plus screen tests and the Slayer of All Dragons featurettes. But looks excellent. And this is like, a movie that sort of precedes Jurassic Park in its effects and has some really great dragon stuff in it, and is just a really neat sort of physical effects film from the 1980s that I think people still love. And it was really neat to see this get this 4K. I really was impressed with it. Definitely worth picking up. On the studio side, Jaws 2 is actually a really surprisingly good 4K. Like, just really looks good. 45th anniversary includes the a portrait by Keith Gordon, which is a featurette that I really, really like from the Blu-ray. Maybe that goes back to the DVD. I can't remember. Music of Jaws, deleted scenes, making of Jaws 2. I've always been a big Jaws 2 fan. Like, it was the first Jaws movie I showed my daughter, weirdly, and showed her Jaws after that. I know that doesn't make sense, but she really responded to Jaws 2, and I've always thought it's a blast. So, nice 4K of that. Batman Mask of the Phantasm. Some would say one of the best Batman movies ever made. Really great animated film and looks excellent on 4K. And has not a ton of features. Kevin Conroy, I Am the Knight, about the guy who does the voice, of course, of Batman. He passed away recently. But yeah, just a good, dark, gritty Batman movie and wonderful animation. I like animation in 4K and HD. Then we have also from Warner's Rebel Without a Cause, Nick Ray's movie with James Dean and Natalie Wood and Sal Mineo and, CinemaScope, I think, or was it Warner Scope? I can't remember. But widescreen, color, beautiful color, and this 4K does that transfer, does the film a lot of justice. Some commentaries and a documentary. A couple documentaries. But yeah, I was really happy with this 4K. Then we have... let's see. 3 Days of the Condor, also from Kino. One of my favorite paranoid thrillers from the 70s. Robert Redford is a book reader. I did a round on this one, but yeah, definitely recommend this one. 4K looks great and has some nice features that they brought over. I want to say from like some French disc or something. The 2004 Something About Sidney Pollack documentary is pretty neat. Just an inside look at his process. And then you have commentary with Steve Mitchell and Nathaniel Thompson, as well as one with Pollack. And he goes into a lot of detail and gives a lot of stories about the film that I enjoyed. But yeah, Max von Sydow and the great Cliff Robertson, as well as, of course, Faye Dunaway. Yeah, really, really good spy thriller or espionage or paranoid thriller. And then, of course, The Truman Show got a release on 4K from Paramount for its 25th anniversary. This is a really great movie, just a great concept about a guy who's born into a life of reality television and sort of anticipates reality television in some ways, and just really prophetic in terms of the satire side of things and the commentary it's making, and great performance by Jim Carrey and Laura Linney. And yeah, really, really like this, and it looks good on 4K. And then last but not least, we have from Turbine, German releasing company, we have Escape from Absalon, aka No Escape, with Ray Liotta, Michael Lerner as the evil warden of this prison island. Kevin Dillon returns here, and it's got, some nice features, actually a bunch of features that I want to say are all English friendly. I haven't double checked all of them, but anyway, this is the only 4K of this that I'm aware of, but a really enjoyable and maybe a little bit forgotten 90s action movie with Ray Liotta in an action role that I really like. It's just a good, guys on an island prison kind of movie. So anyway, highly recommended. Escape from Absalon, aka No Escape. Whew. Okay, well, that's going to do it, folks, for the 4Ks. I will be back with my Blu-ray favorites as well. Again, same kind of thought process where I'm looking at movies that I really like, and the releases are a little secondary, but definitely the movies are forefronted. So anyway, thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.